Hi everyone and welcome back to another episode where I compare Saturn and PlayStation games in various genres. And today I will take a look at corridor shooters. Both Saturn and PlayStation had corridor shooters released for their respective console early in their console generation. On PlayStation we had Kileak the Blood, released in Japan on 27th of January 1995. This game was released as Kileak the DNA Imperative in North America. And on Saturn we had Deadalus, released in Japan on March 24th, 1995. This game was called Robotica when it was released in the West. So I'll begin with Kileak the Blood on the Sony PlayStation. But before that, let me address the elephant in the room. So what's up with that both Sony PlayStation and Sega Saturn got more or less exactly the same type of game, more or less at the same time. They are so similar that it feels like two game developers had an assignment where they were tasked to develop a game where you are a mecha which runs around in tight corridors, collect key cards, shoot robots and move along to the next floor. So I've been playing both Kileak the Blood and Deadalus for a few hours, and personally I feel like Kileak plays a bit smoother. The frame rate is a bit more stable and overall the game runs smoother than Deadalus. However, the gameplay, the actual controls, feels a bit jerkier compared to Deadalus. Back in the days when this was released, I remember it didn't get any great reviews, and I can understand why, because this isn't very fun. There's not much variation. The corridors and the environment is more or less the same looking throughout the game. Just endless corridors, and the enemies aren't very interesting. You just go from one corridor to the next, collect key cards, connect to computers, and so it's not that fun of a game. And the music is actually horrible. It's like they had one really lousy drum machine and they just looped it on and on and on. So it's really awful. So I would recommend you to turn down the music. It's just awful. And going back to the game now, almost 30 years later, I kind of understand why this was released. I mean, there was such a huge Doom craze back in the days when this was released. I mean, Doom made such a huge impact on the gaming industry. So, of course, all the console manufacturers, they wanted something to impress the audience with their Doom clone. But this is not Doom, and it plays not like Doom in any way. It reminds me more of Space Hulk on the Panasonic 3DO, if anyone remembers that game. So if you liked Space Hulk on the 3DO, maybe you'll find Kileak a bit enjoyable, I don't know. But overall this hasn't aged very well at all. So yeah, so this is Kileak the Blood on the Sony PlayStation, and this actually got a sequel on the PlayStation a few years later. So yeah, maybe it did sell a bit, I don't know, but this is more or less forgotten now. Okay, this is Deadalus on the Sega Saturn, or Robotica as it was called in the West. And when you fire up the game, you will be greeted by this CGI intro. And as you can see, the mecha looks more or less exactly like the one in the Kileak game. So this is just hilarious that they managed to release two games with more or less exactly the same type of ingredients. So Deadalus doesn't run as smooth as Kileak, yeah. But your mecha is actually cooler in this game. The mecha is a bit more versatile. You can strafe left and right. You can also strafe in Kileak, but one cool thing with the Deadalus mecha is that you can actually dash. so it makes it much faster going through the corridors. You can just dash through every corridor, which is kind of cool. You have various weapons, lasers, and you can also punch. So your left robot arm can also be used to punch with. And so overall the mecha actually plays better here. Another thing I have to mention is that Deadalus contains this randomized generator. So every time you boot up this game, the game will randomize the level design. So no playthrough is the same as the other one. And that's kind of cool. But then again, the level design is quite boring. It's more or less the same type of corridors you walk around in. So it's not that much of a variation. So it suffers from the same problems as Kileak. It gets quite boring quickly. And yeah, it's a bit more darker compared to Kileak. And some levels are more or less pitch black, and you have to find the light to turn it on. Yeah. So none of these games have aged that well, and picking a winner was not easy. But Deadalus have a few advantages compared to Kileak. For once, the music is much better than Kileak. I have to say that the music score for Deadalus is really good. Check it out on YouTube if you're interested. And also the gameplay is better in Deadalus. The mecha feels a bit better to control, and the dash movement is quite cool. So in that regards, I would say that Deadalus is a bit better compared to Kileak. Okay, so another point for Sega Saturn, which takes the lead. And I'll see you in the next episode where we compare another game genre. Please leave comments and suggestions in the comment section, and I'll see you next time. Take care.